You've been taught to grind harder, sleep less, and chase validation like a loyal servant. Yet the people who control your paycheck, your attention, and your future barely break a sweat. Here is the brutal truth: hustle makes you replaceable. Influence makes you untouchable. In the next few minutes, I will show you how to stop burning energy like a laborer and start moving power like a strategist. If you stay until the end, you will learn how to reposition yourself so others move for you, not the other way around. You've been conditioned to believe that if you're not constantly visible, you're irrelevant. Post more. Speak louder. Show up everywhere. Hustle your image until exhaustion becomes your identity. This is not power. This is exposure without leverage. The modern world rewards those who understand one brutal truth. The more predictable and accessible you are, the cheaper your presence becomes. When everyone can reach you, no one truly values you. Machiavelli warned rulers against allowing themselves to become overly familiar with the masses. Familiarity dissolves authority. When people see you too often, they stop respecting the weight of your presence. They stop preparing for you. They stop anticipating you. Your influence becomes background noise, and background noise never commands obedience or opportunity. Hustle culture trains you to flood the market with your existence, but power operates on scarcity, not saturation. Think about the figures who dominate industries, culture, and power structures. They are not endlessly available. They do not explain themselves daily. Their appearances feel intentional, calculated, and consequential. When they speak, attention converges. When they move, markets react. Their silence creates tension. Their absence creates speculation. That tension is influence. That silence is leverage. Meanwhile, the hustler exhausts himself begging for relevance in an overcrowded arena, mistaking activity for authority. The visibility trap convinces you that being seen is the same as being valued. It is not. Visibility without positioning turns you into a consumable product. People scroll past you, skim you, replace you. Your ideas become disposable. Your time becomes negotiable. Your boundaries dissolve. The more you give away freely, the less others invest emotionally, psychologically, or strategically in you. Power requires controlled access. If everyone can touch you, no one fears losing you. Machiavelli understood that rulers must carefully regulate their appearances. Appear too often, and you become ordinary. Appear too rarely, and you become forgotten. The strategist finds the balance where presence signals authority and absence fuels demand. This is not ego. This is psychological engineering. Humans assign higher value to what feels scarce, selective, and difficult to obtain. When your time, voice, and energy are carefully guarded, people subconsciously assign you higher status and greater authority. Your goal is not to disappear. Your goal is to curate impact. Every appearance should carry intention, consequence, and strategic purpose. Instead of reacting impulsively to every opportunity, every message, every invitation, you choose selectively where your presence multiplies leverage. You stop broadcasting noise and start transmitting signal. You move from being reactive to being architectural. You design how others experience you rather than allowing the crowd to dictate your visibility. Notice how controlled visibility also protects your psychological dominance. When you are always visible, you become emotionally reactive. You chase feedback. You crave approval. You become dependent on external validation. That dependency weakens strategic clarity. Scarcity protects your inner authority. It keeps you centered, focused, and internally governed rather than externally manipulated. The hustler lives for attention. The strategist uses attention as a tool, not a drug. Controlled visibility also filters relationships. When access to you is earned rather than automatic, the quality of interaction increases. People prepare before approaching you. Conversations become sharper, more intentional, more valuable. You attract collaborators instead of consumers. You gain allies instead of spectators. This is how influence compounds quietly, while others remain stuck in performative motion. Understand this deeply. Power is not about being everywhere. Power is about being unavoidable when you appear. It is about creating a psychological footprint that lingers after you leave the room. It is about training others to associate your presence with consequence, clarity, and direction. When your entrance shifts behavior, you are no longer hustling. You are influencing. If you continue flooding the world with unrestricted access to your thoughts, time, and energy, you will remain replaceable. If you learn to regulate your visibility with discipline and intention, your value increases automatically without additional effort. The market rewards what feels rare, controlled, and purposeful. Influence begins the moment you stop begging to be seen and start deciding when you should be witnessed. Most people believe power comes from what you can actually do. They obsess over skill, effort, credentials, and proof. They think if they just become good enough, the world will eventually recognize them. That belief keeps millions trapped in silent mediocrity, while less capable individuals dominate influence, money, and authority. The battlefield of power is not built on reality. It is built on perception. Whoever controls how they are perceived controls how they are treated, trusted, obeyed, and rewarded. Machiavelli understood that men judge more with their eyes than with their hands. What people see and believe shapes their loyalty faster than what they can verify. Human beings operate on mental shortcuts. They interpret confidence as competence, clarity as intelligence, decisiveness as leadership. When you engineer these signals deliberately, you compress time. You no longer wait years for reputation to grow organically. You install authority psychologically before anyone questions your credentials. The perception engine is the system you build to shape how others interpret your presence the moment you enter a room, a conversation, a negotiation, or a digital space. Your tone, posture, pacing, language structure, certainty, boundaries, and emotional discipline all transmit invisible messages. Every interaction is a broadcast, whether you intend it or not. If you leave perception unmanaged, the crowd will assign meaning randomly, often incorrectly, and usually in a way that weakens your leverage. Look at how quickly people decide whether to respect you, challenge you, trust you, or ignore you. Those judgments form in seconds, not months. By the time logic catches up, behavior is already locked in. If you hesitate, over-explain, apologize excessively, or seek validation, you signal uncertainty. Uncertainty invites dominance from others. If you speak cleanly, move deliberately, and maintain composure under pressure, you project authority even before outcomes prove it. This is not manipulation in the childish sense. This is strategic positioning in a competitive ecosystem. Every powerful figure throughout history mastered symbolic authority. Clothing signaled status. Architecture signaled dominance. Ceremony signaled legitimacy. In the modern world, your language, digital presence, and behavioral consistency are your symbols. If you treat your image casually, others will treat your influence casually. If you design it intentionally, the environment responds accordingly. The danger is that many people wait for permission to act confident. They want certainty before projecting certainty. That sequence is backwards. Power operates forward, not backward. You demonstrate stability first, and the world aligns later. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear virtuous, even when strategy demanded flexibility, because perception stabilized loyalty. In your world, appearing controlled, capable, and internally governed stabilizes authority before results fully mature. The perception engine also protects you from unnecessary conflict. When your presence communicates clarity and boundary strength, fewer people attempt to challenge, exploit, or waste your time. Weak signals invite testing. Strong signals reduce friction. You conserve energy by letting perception do the heavy lifting long before confrontation becomes necessary. You must become conscious of the stories people tell themselves about you when you leave the room. Are you framed as uncertain or decisive, reactive or grounded, scattered or focused, emotional or controlled? These narratives shape future opportunities more than resumes or promises ever will. Influence is memory management. It is the art of shaping what lingers after interaction ends. Another critical dimension of the perception engine is consistency. Inconsistency destabilizes trust. When your behavior fluctuates emotionally or strategically, others cannot predict you. And unpredictability without authority creates anxiety, rather than respect. Strategic consistency creates reliability without vulnerability. People learn how to engage you. They learn your standards. They adapt upward to your frame. This also requires eliminating behavioral leakage, complaining publicly, oversharing struggles, broadcasting insecurity. These behaviors weaken the psychological frame you are building. Power does not mean pretending to be perfect. It means controlling what narrative you allow to circulate. Vulnerability is a tool, not a habit. Disclosure must always serve positioning, not emotional release. When perception aligns in your favor, opportunities accelerate toward you without force. People trust faster. Negotiations tilt subtly in your direction. Resistance softens before it ever becomes visible. You begin influencing outcomes without raising your voice or increasing effort. This is the invisible architecture of authority operating beneath surface reality. If you continue operating only on effort and competence while neglecting perception, you will remain trapped in delayed recognition, constantly proving yourself to people who already decided how much power you deserve. When you activate the perception engine consciously, you stop waiting for validation and start shaping the psychological terrain where decisions are made long before logic arrives. Most people believe power means standing alone, being independent, self-made, and untouchable. That fantasy feels heroic, but in reality it keeps you isolated, fragile, and replaceable. True power does not come from how little you need others. It comes from how many people quietly need you. Dependency is not weakness when you control the architecture. Dependency is leverage when designed strategically. Machiavelli understood that direct domination breeds resentment and rebellion. When people feel forced, they resist. When people feel dependent by choice, they comply willingly, while convincing themselves they are acting freely. The smartest rulers did not crush their populations into submission. They embedded themselves into systems of trade, security, law, and survival, so removing the ruler would destabilize everything. Influence becomes invisible when it becomes necessary. The dependency web is the structure you build where your skills, access, information, networks, or systems become essential bridges that others must cross to reach their goals. When you are easily replaced, you are easily ignored. When you become a strategic bottleneck, your value compounds automatically. People protect what they rely on. They prioritize what they cannot bypass. They defend what keeps them moving forward. Most hustlers chase attention, applause, and recognition. Strategists quietly build utility that cannot be duplicated easily. They create frameworks people depend on without fully realizing it. This could be knowledge that simplifies complexity, relationships that unlock opportunity, systems that save time, or positioning that filters chaos. The form matters less than the function. You become a node that connects outcomes. When dependency is emotional, it creates volatility. When dependency is structural, it creates stability. Emotional dependency burns fast and collapses under pressure. Structural dependency persists quietly and compounds over time. Your objective is not to make people like you excessively. Your objective is to make your presence materially useful to their progress, so your relevance survives mood swings, politics, and trends. Observe how institutions maintain power. Banks control access to capital. Platforms control access to audiences. Governments control access to legitimacy. None of them shout dominance constantly. They simply control gateways. When you control gateways, you shape behavior without confrontation. People adapt to your structure because it becomes the easiest path forward. Machiavelli warned that generosity can weaken a ruler when it creates expectation instead of loyalty. The same principle applies here. If you give freely without structure, people consume you and move on. If you design contributions strategically, people remain anchored to your value. Scarcity combined with reliability creates durable dependency. You are not generous with everything. You are precise with what you give and when you give it. This also requires resisting the temptation to over-deliver without leverage. Many talented individuals burn themselves by solving problems completely for others, instead of teaching others to operate through their system. When you solve everything directly, you make yourself exhausted and replaceable. When you design frameworks others must navigate, you scale influence instead of effort. The dependency web also protects your position during conflict. When tension arises, people hesitate to sever ties with someone they rely on structurally. Influence becomes insurance. Your presence stabilizes negotiations because removing you introduces friction and cost. Power thrives when exit becomes inconvenient. Another advantage of the dependency web is that it shifts your mindset from competition to architecture. Instead of fighting for attention in crowded markets, you build lanes others must pass through. You stop racing horizontally and start controlling vertically. This reduces noise, drama, and wasted energy while increasing long-term dominance. You must also maintain ethical discipline internally. Dependency should never become exploitation driven by ego. Strategic dependency serves mutual benefit while preserving your leverage. If people collapse when you disappear, the system becomes unstable. If people thrive but require your infrastructure to do so, the system becomes resilient and enduring. Pay attention to where people constantly ask for guidance, clarity, access, simplification, or connection. Those are leverage signals. Those are pressure points where dependency naturally forms. Instead of dismissing them as distractions, convert them into structured pathways. Build repeatable systems. Create reliable gateways. Shape behavior passively rather than forcefully. When dependency compounds, your influence grows quietly without needing constant self-promotion. You become harder to replace, harder to ignore, harder to bypass. Decisions begin orbiting around you even when you are not physically present. Conversations reference you. Opportunities flow through you. Conflicts seek your mediation. You stop chasing relevance and become embedded in the machinery of progress. Most people believe emotions are a source of authenticity, motivation, and moral clarity. They trust their feelings as if emotions were reliable advisors. In reality, emotions are chemical storms that distort perception, accelerate bad decisions, and expose strategic vulnerabilities. Power does not belong to the most passionate individual in the room. It belongs to the calmest mind under pressure. If you cannot regulate your emotional state, you will always be controlled by someone who can. Machiavelli observed that fear, desire, pride, and envy move men more forcefully than logic ever will. A strategist does not eliminate emotion. He studies it, contains it, and weaponizes its predictability in others while keeping his own internal state disciplined and neutral. Emotional leakage reveals intent. Intent reveals vulnerability. Vulnerability invites exploitation. The emotional firewall is your internal defense system against impulsive reactions, ego traps, and external manipulation. Look at how often people sabotage their leverage by reacting publicly, arguing emotionally, oversharing frustrations, or seeking validation in moments of uncertainty. Each emotional outburst sends information to the environment about what hurts them, what they fear, and what triggers them. That data becomes ammunition for competitors, manipulators, and opportunists. Silence and composure deny others this intelligence advantage. The emotional firewall allows you to pause between stimulus and response. That pause is where power lives. When others react immediately, they surrender strategic control. They allow the situation to dictate their behavior. When you slow your response, you regain authorship of the interaction. You choose timing, tone, and direction rather than being dragged into emotional theater. This is especially critical in conflict. Anger feels like strength but weakens negotiation position. Desperation feels urgent but collapses leverage. Excitement clouds risk assessment. Pride blinds you to superior strategies. Emotional neutrality keeps your mind clear enough to see patterns, incentives, and long-term consequences while others remain trapped in short-term emotional noise. The emotional firewall also protects your identity from external approval addiction. Many people unconsciously outsource their self-worth to likes, praise, attention, and recognition. That dependency creates behavioral volatility. When validation spikes, they become reckless. When validation drops, they become insecure and reactive. This emotional dependency makes them easy to steer, easy to bait, and easy to manipulate. Sovereignty begins when your internal stability no longer depends on external feedback. Machiavelli advised rulers to avoid appearing weak or indecisive in moments of pressure, not because appearances mattered alone, but because internal hesitation spreads outward and destabilizes authority. When you remain composed, others mirror your calm or submit to your frame. Emotional dominance quietly sets the emotional temperature of the room. Developing the emotional firewall requires disciplined self-observation. You must recognize your emotional triggers before others do. Notice where ego flares, where insecurity tightens your chest, where impatience accelerates your speech. These are pressure points. Without awareness, they become control points for others. With awareness, they become neutralized. Another critical dimension is delayed gratification. Emotional impulses seek immediate relief or reward. Strategic power prioritizes long-term positioning over short-term comfort. When you resist impulsive reactions, you compound leverage. You avoid burning bridges unnecessarily. You preserve optionality. You allow situations to mature instead of forcing premature closure that benefits others. The emotional firewall does not make you cold or robotic. It makes you precise. You still experience emotion internally, but you do not allow it to dictate external behavior automatically. You choose when emotion serves influence and when it must remain private. Strategic vulnerability can build trust when used intentionally. Emotional leakage destroys leverage when uncontrolled. Observe high-level negotiators, commanders, and leaders. Their speech remains measured. Their facial expressions remain controlled. Their decisions remain consistent regardless of provocation. This is not accidental. This is trained emotional discipline. The environment reads their stability as strength, reliability, and authority. Emotional discipline also increases psychological stamina. When you stop riding emotional highs and lows, your energy becomes stable and sustainable. You reduce burnout. You reduce regret-driven decisions. You move with clarity instead of urgency. This gives you a long-term advantage over reactive competitors who exhaust themselves chasing emotional spikes. The emotional firewall ultimately grants you the ability to remain centered while chaos unfolds externally. You become the anchor in unstable environments. People gravitate towards stability when uncertainty rises. They trust those who remain calm when pressure intensifies. Influence naturally flows toward emotional gravity. If you allow emotions to control your speech, timing, and posture, others will always have leverage over you even when they appear weaker on the surface. When you master emotional regulation, you control the invisible battlefield, where most power struggles are actually decided long before visible actions occur. Most people believe authority is built through explanation, persuasion, and constant justification. They think if they just clarify enough, defend themselves enough, and prove their reasoning enough, others will finally respect them. In reality, excessive explanation signals uncertainty, insecurity, and a need for approval. Power does not beg to be understood. Power establishes direction and allows results to validate the decision afterward. Machiavelli understood that a ruler who constantly seeks validation loses psychological dominance. When leaders overcommunicate their intentions, they invite debate, resistance, and manipulation. Authority weakens when every decision becomes a public negotiation. Silence, when used correctly, creates gravity. It forces others to interpret your presence as deliberate rather than reactive. The silent authority is the discipline of reducing verbal noise while increasing decisiveness. It is the ability to move forward confidently without narrating every internal thought. When you speak less but act with clarity, people project competence onto you. When you explain excessively, people begin searching for flaws in your logic instead of aligning with your direction. Observe how people behave around someone who speaks with calm brevity and firm boundaries. Conversations tighten, respect rises, distractions decrease. The environment adapts to the frame being set. This is not intimidation. This is psychological anchoring. Humans instinctively follow certainty because uncertainty generates anxiety. Silence also protects strategic information. When you talk too much, you reveal priorities, insecurities, timelines, and negotiation thresholds. Every unnecessary word becomes intelligence for others. Machiavelli warned that revealing intentions invites preemptive opposition. Strategic ambiguity preserves flexibility and leverage. You cannot be easily countered if your full strategy remains invisible. Many people fear silence because they equate it with weakness or social risk. They rush to fill gaps with chatter, excuses, humor, or reassurance. This habit trains others to expect constant availability and emotional labor. Silent authority reclaims your space. It teaches others to meet your tempo rather than dragging you into theirs. Decisiveness is the visible backbone of silent authority. Indecision communicates fragility. When you hesitate publicly, you invite others to override, challenge, or bypass you. A decision executed calmly, even if imperfect, generates momentum and confidence. Momentum reinforces authority far more than theoretical perfection ever could. This does not mean reckless behavior. It means disciplined commitment. You evaluate internally, then execute externally without hesitation. You separate thinking from broadcasting. Your internal analysis remains private. Your external action remains clear. Silent authority also reshapes how people negotiate with you. When you avoid excessive justification, you avoid creating unnecessary bargaining space. The more reasons you provide, the more angles others can attack. When you state boundaries cleanly and minimally, others adjust faster. Resistance decreases because ambiguity shrinks. Another powerful effect is emotional containment. Silence prevents you from venting frustration, insecurity, or excitement impulsively. This keeps your emotional leverage intact. When people cannot read you easily, they behave more cautiously around you. Uncertainty in others creates advantage for you when paired with your own internal clarity. Machiavelli emphasized that rulers should appear resolute, even during uncertainty. The appearance of stability calms allies and discourages challengers. Silent authority achieves this without theatrical dominance. Your calm presence becomes a stabilizing signal that others subconsciously trust. This principle also scales in leadership, business, and social dynamics. Teams function better when leadership communicates direction concisely instead of overwhelming them with rationale. Negotiations flow smoother when fewer words anchor positions firmly. Relationships stabilize when boundaries are expressed clearly rather than negotiated endlessly. Silent authority does not mean becoming withdrawn or cold. It means choosing your words strategically rather than compulsively. Every sentence must serve positioning, clarity, or direction. Anything else becomes noise. As you reduce verbal clutter, you will notice a shift in how people respond to you. Interruptions decrease. Requests become more respectful. Decision cycles accelerate. People listen more carefully because you speak less often. Your words gain density rather than volume. The discipline of restraint also strengthens your internal confidence. You stop seeking external approval through explanation. You begin trusting your judgment more deeply. This internal alignment radiates outward as quiet dominance. In a world addicted to constant broadcasting, outrage, and oversharing, silence becomes a competitive advantage. It differentiates you from the noise. It signals maturity, control, and depth. Those who master silence move others without raising their voice. When your presence communicates clarity without excessive language, your authority becomes self-reinforcing. People follow not because you persuade them endlessly, but because your consistency, composure, and decisiveness make alignment feel natural and inevitable. Most people live inside urgency. They chase quick wins, immediate validation, fast growth, viral moments, and visible success. Their decisions are driven by short-term emotion and public feedback loops. They move loudly, broadcast constantly, and measure progress by applause rather than positioning. This behavior creates the illusion of momentum while quietly destroying long-term leverage. Strategic power does not sprint. It drifts deliberately, accumulating advantage invisibly until movement becomes irreversible. Machiavelli understood that great rulers expanded influence gradually, securing alliances, stabilizing resources, and shaping perception long before overt dominance appeared. Sudden power attracts resistance. Silent power matures without provoking counterforces. The strategic drift doctrine is the discipline of moving patiently toward leverage, while allowing competitors to exhaust themselves chasing surface-level victories. Drift does not mean laziness. It means directional patience. Every move compounds the previous one. Each decision strengthens your positioning slightly, but consistently. Over time, small advantages become overwhelming asymmetries. The impatient mind abandons, compounding in favor of stimulation. The strategist tolerates delayed gratification because he understands exponential accumulation. The modern world conditions people to overreact to trends, metrics, and comparison. Algorithms reward volatility. Social platforms reward visibility spikes. This trains individuals to prioritize noise over foundation. Strategic drift rejects reactive behavior. You move based on internal objectives rather than external triggers. You do not allow trending chaos to hijack your trajectory. This doctrine also protects you from premature exposure. When power reveals itself too early, it attracts envy, competition, and political interference. Quiet accumulation keeps your intentions concealed until your position becomes structurally secure. By the time others notice your momentum, the cost of catching up becomes prohibitive. Strategic drift requires building assets that appreciate quietly, skills that deepen, networks that mature, reputation that stabilizes, systems that automate leverage, intellectual capital that compounds. None of these produce immediate applause, but all of them create enduring control. You trade speed for inevitability. Machiavelli warned against impulsive conquest because it destabilizes alliances and invites retaliation. Stability emerges from gradual consolidation. The same principle applies personally and professionally. Rapid expansion without foundation collapses under pressure. Slow expansion with structural reinforcement becomes resilient. The doctrine also changes how you measure progress. Instead of chasing visible wins, you track position strength. Are you becoming harder to replace? Are your dependencies deepening? Is your influence extending quietly into new spaces? Are your options increasing while your risks decrease? These indicators matter more than public recognition. Strategic drift also minimizes burnout. When you detach from constant urgency, your nervous system stabilizes. You conserve cognitive energy. You avoid emotional roller coasters driven by short-term outcomes. This preserves longevity and decision quality over decades rather than months. Another advantage is strategic surprise. When others underestimate your quiet accumulation, they miscalculate your capacity. They delay reacting. They fail to mobilize opposition early. By the time they adjust, your position has already solidified. Surprise is a force multiplier in competitive environments. The doctrine demands patience with invisibility. Many abandon long-term strategy because they crave recognition. They equate silence with failure. In reality, silence often signals deep construction underway. The strongest structures are built underground before emerging visibly. Strategic drift also teaches restraint in disclosure. You do not broadcast every milestone. You do not telegraph your next move. You allow ambiguity to protect your trajectory. Information asymmetry preserves advantage. This mindset also shifts your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a performer chasing applause and start seeing yourself as an architect shaping systems. You operate in decades rather than days. You prioritize trajectory over headlines. The environment rewards those who can tolerate boredom, repetition, and delayed payoff while maintaining strategic clarity. Most people cannot sustain this discipline. They sabotage compounding by constantly pivoting, reacting, and abandoning direction. When your movement becomes steady and quiet, external noise loses control over your behavior. You stop being emotionally hijacked by comparison. You stop chasing other people's timelines. You move according to your internal strategic map. Strategic drift ultimately transforms power from something you seek into something that naturally surrounds you. Influence becomes embedded in your position, rather than dependent on constant effort. You no longer need to push aggressively, because momentum carries you forward organically. Those who master this doctrine often appear invisible, until suddenly they dominate their domain. Their rise seems mysterious to observers who ignored the slow accumulation happening beneath the surface. By the time the world notices, the outcome feels inevitable.